Namaste. This is Ariella Halevi, and I wanted to talk to you today about how to stop feeling so anxious. There is so much fear and anxiety going on in the past 2 years, feels like 3 years of our lives and beyond. And so, whether you struggle with anxiety and fear because of what has come up in our world, a pandemic and such, or perhaps the pandemic has brought up underlying issues that you are dealing with right now. Or you are just someone who naturally feels anxiety, and it doesn't matter whether it's pandemic or anything else going on, you feel like you're an anxious person. I understand. I have struggled with anxiety probably off and on since I was 13 years old. And because, the thing that you need the most, you teach, right? And so because of this reason, because I have struggled with it so much in my own life, I feel that I have, there's no one masters really anything. We're just going into deeper layers of healing. And so I feel like I have a pretty good handle of teaching others how to handle their own anxiety, which is really fear manifesting as nervousness, and also to teach specific tools and ways in which to go beyond the anxiety, not cover up the anxiety, but go beyond it and underneath it in order to find freedom. Um, right now, as we are struggling and wondering what our future will hold, we often get super uncomfortable with planning for that future, right? And we don't really know what's going to happen. We are truly living as a collective in the unknown. And so that in and of itself, if you're a type A person, that's probably driving you up the wall, which means you're probably feeling anxious, scared, maybe alone in terms of, even just planning. How do we feel better? We have two choices. We can numb out, and that leads to, in the beginning, numbing out is great, it's fun, but eventually leads to destructive behaviors. And we can realign. Here's the other choice. You can realign with spiritual guidance. And during this difficult time, it's really important to remember that you're not alone. And so let's talk about this numbing out. So when we numb out, we feed the anxiety. We feed it, and we are invited to, the invitation is to pause and to sit with it. But sometimes if you have buildup, especially if you have things that are coming up right now in your life that are affecting or bringing up things from the past, then your desire to numb out is probably pretty strong. So I want you to kind of take a deep breath and sit with me so we can talk about how to handle some of that. The first idea is to sit and pause, right? It's to do your very best to even set a timer, to release the running, and to sit and pause. We are not taught as a society to pause. We are taught to do, and go, and be more than you ever can be. We are in constant competition with time, with others, and with ourselves in order to be more successful in whatever that means you're supposed to do, right? So the consequences of being too busy is that you can't feel, and you don't know who you really are underneath the busy. And that makes decision making impossible. So we become more anxious, we become more impulsive, we spend too much time on social media or out there in the world and not enough time inside. The pause is to allow divine timing in. When we're too busy and we force our way into life, we end up not doing our highest good, but the good of our anxiety. So the anxiety becomes the divine, right? We scratch out or push out the divine spirit, and the anxiety becomes the thing that we pray to. It's believe me, I understand. But that's what happens when we're too busy and we don't slow down. So this is the time right now to pause, give, heal, and serve. So let's dive into that for just a moment. Healing. It's time to heal our old wounds, right? It is time. It is time to step into your sovereignty. It is time to see the anxiety and heal what's underneath it. I always ask my clients when I work with them, if anxiety had words, what would it say? So it's time to feel the stuff that's underneath the word anxiety. Anxiety is not an emotion. There are emotions underneath that, but anxiety is not an emotion. I call it, or here at Soul Centered, we call it the avoid dancing, right? We avoid dancing with the divine. We end up dancing with our busyness. And when we're able to face ourselves, when we bring our awareness into what needs to be healed, then we can bring light to it. We can crack open what's haunting us, and we can forgive ourselves and love ourselves through it. But pushing it down and staying busy is the avoid dance, right? We're dancing around the void, and it's time to step into the void and pause. So what comes from that is that we're anxious because we're living outside of alignment with our souls, right? Not most of us, but a lot of us walk around saying, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my life. I don't know where my future is going to go. I don't like my past, or I'm trying to make friends with my past, but we're constantly living in two different places. And what happens is that we get lost and we don't know how to serve. So we don't know who we are or why we're here. We have all these labels, but we don't know who we are underneath the labels. Mom, dad, parent, whatever you label yourself as, who are you if you didn't have that label? So when life happens, COVID, illness, grief, loss, you lose your job, anything, if we're also dealing with anxiety, we're going to have double the amount of angst to deal with. And so the practice of sitting with yourself and communing with the divine is an invitation to really understand who you are underneath all of the labels, so that you can find that seed of your soul. And that is your divine blueprint. And that is going to help us out of this collective angst and also the individual anxiety and fear. And then you transform, right? Because if you remember who you really are, then you can transcend and transform from anxiety to purposeful. The worst thing, I always think, like, the hardest thing in the world is when I don't feel centered and know where I'm headed. So this angst in the world is bringing up all of that. Well, we don't know where we're headed. So why don't we dive in underneath anxiety to see who you are? Let's leave the rest of the world out for a moment and dive into who you really are. That is transformative. It's a time of getting out of, like a cocoon. A butterfly doesn't become a butterfly overnight. It's a transformation. I love the book by Sue Monk Kidd, and I can't remember the name. I'll think about it. But she talks a lot about, I can't remember the name. I always remember the names. She talks a lot about becoming this butterfly during her transformative years of midlife. And it takes time to become the butterfly. You have to be the cocoon. And the cocoon, we've said before here, the cocoon is like slimy and it's not fun, and it's compacted and it's dirty. So transformation takes time. And that's where the anxiety comes in. The anxiety is the teacher. And the teacher teaches us how to feel what needs to be like taught. Like, you're supposed to feel it in order to heal it and move forward and live your divine purpose. So my steps are stop, heal, stop, feel, heal, and serve. And serving is to feel the fear and do it anyway. The greatest transformation can come from feeling that fear and anxiety and taking action anyway. Being there in an act of service for others, for the things in your life, for the people you love, is an alignment in and of itself. And then the anxiety doesn't have a huge lion voice, it has a little cat voice. So we need to nourish ourselves, to be patient with ourselves, to trust ourselves, to breathe, to grow. And we need to do it in a way that transforms us and the world. So this comes from the seed. And so your invitation in order to heal anxiety is to step below it, to feel it in order to heal it, and then serve in the best way that you can. So once you take that great pause to sit in your cocoon and become that butterfly, you can then transform yourself. And it's not about transforming yourself from the outside in. Yes, it's about serving others and your world, but it's also about finding that patience, that still small voice within, in order for you to go outside of yourself. So I like to say that we switch up the order of things. Many of us think we need to just go outside of ourselves. And I'm going to invite you with anxiety. I'm going to invite you to go underneath the anxiety, not to make the anxiety a huge, scary lion, but to make the anxiety a small cat, to go in and to feel it in order to grow into that beautiful butterfly that you truly are. So I hope you learned a little bit of something about anxiety. I'd love to hear your comments and your thoughts and what you struggle with and how you get out of the anxiety, or why you feel stuck, and how we can help you here at Soul Centered get you unstuck so you can heal and feel and grow and transform yourself into that beautiful butterfly. Namaste.